Hey guys, welcome to this new video. Today it's a very important video because I'm going to share you 7 things that foreigners and expatriates don't like in Vietnam. It's always good to share the good thing about the country, right? But today I want to tackle a little bit about this common myth that everything is easy in Vietnam. And because I've been living here for more than 5 years, I hope today you can get a better understanding about what's the real situation and what you can expect here as an individual, but also if you want to build a career or even do business in Vietnam. Let's get started. So I don't know for how long you plan to stay here. Maybe you just want to come for an internship. Maybe you come here for a volunteering job. Maybe you will even find an expat position and you will work for an international company in Vietnam. Or maybe you also want to come to do business or invest in Vietnam. Then there is a lot of myth and a lot of pitfalls you may find, and also maybe some problems that foreigners may share about their experience about Vietnam. And this is true, Vietnam is not always nice, and today we're going to go into the 7 myths and 7 things that foreigners don't like in Vietnam. So the first thing people are complaining a lot, it's about the visa. In Vietnam, you don't have clear visa policy if you want to live a couple of months or years in Vietnam. The only way you can really settle here as a foreigner is first, you find a job. Second, you plan to come here to do business. Or third, you want to marry a local. Only if you match those criteria, you can have a long-term visa or, for instance, a TRC, which is a temporary residency card that foreigners like myself are having. But if you are not fitting that box, if you are, I don't know, a digital nomad, here in Vietnam we don't have yet a digital nomad visa. If you are also a retiree having a wage and a pension from overseas, here in Vietnam we don't have retirement visa yet. So you should consider going to other places like Cambodia or Thailand. I'm sure those countries will fit more your need. So the visa is a big problem. Recently, we also had an outbreak and a very big crackdown of the visa scheme in all Vietnam, and many foreigners had to leave the country. Just because the Vietnamese government wanted to regulate everything, many foreigners were kicked out of the country because the situation and the visa situation was not very clear. So that's why many foreigners are complaining and are not happy with the visa situation in Vietnam. Now the second component that people don't like here, it's about the job opportunities. If you come to Asia, maybe you want to change your career, maybe you are looking for an exotic and a nice life, that may be challenging if you come to an emerging country. Especially in Vietnam here, we do have job opportunities for people who are high-skilled workers, who are having diploma, who are having experience working overseas and who plan to come to Vietnam to really develop their career and grow in an emerging environment. But if you are someone who is just freshly graduated, you may find it very challenging, just because either you don't fit the requirements to get work permit, or just because you won't have available position here open for foreigners. Here, usually, if you are an English person, the common path foreigners are taking is to become English teachers. So I know it's a little bit like always the same, but here you don't have thousands of positions available. So for people who are, advanced in age, maybe they want to make an extra income on the side, or maybe they are just starting as a fresh a graduate person with a little bit of years in teaching with the appropriate certificates, then for those people they can become teachers and teach here in the education field in Vietnam. But if you are not fitting those requirements, and it's not because you have plenty of English teachers that it will be easy to find positions. Here you have also a lot of competition on that, and you have a lot of fresh graduates, people who are young, people who are super motivated coming to Asia. So if maybe that's not really something you like to do and you just do it because you don't find other things to do, maybe it's going to be very hard for you to really master it and really be able to grow in your career in this field. Because let's be honest, you cannot like master and become a master English teacher, right? You will always work for local schools or international schools, but your job will mostly be the same every time. Either if you take the path of being an expat and working as an expatriate position, then here you have more chance to grow your career, but again, it's not for everyone and it's not something that is easy at all. Now, the third thing that people don't like here, it's about the hierarchy. Maybe you heard like how the Japanese people are having their behavior, how you need to treat someone who is older than you. Here in Vietnam, you always have that a little bit, just because this is really in their way of talking to each other. You know, when they use the noun to say you, they will use different pronoun according to how the person is older compared to you. So you really have this inside their DNA and inside the culture, and it's also something that you have in the working environment. So I remember interviewing a C-level, someone who is working for an international company in Ho Chi Minh City. You can actually have a look to this interview if you are interested about. And in this interview, he was sharing how it's hard to work inside this corporate environment and to make people change. I'm going to talk a little bit later about the change month in Vietnam, but to be focused more on the mindset aspect and the hierarchy here, because you have different layers in companies. Sometimes it's very hard to have a manager or someone who is senior to spread new habits or to invite people to think differently, to implement new processes. They will have to use certain formal way of treating people, etc. And this is something that may be very tiring, and some foreigners are not happy with that. So this hierarchy may be something that may impact and bother some foreigners sometimes. So we have this hierarchy and very strict way of working with people, but we also have the other extreme. It's about the too easy way Vietnamese are. And Vietnamese behavior, Vietnamese way of doing things. And sometimes it can also be hard as a foreigner to cope and to work in this environment. If you are having maybe someone who joined your team, who is just freshly coming to your company, maybe you will expect that person to have some criticism mindset, some initiative, and show you his work, be willing to work extra hours, etc. In Vietnam, you don't really have that a lot. So people will just tend to either be passive and either wait you to give them tasks. So because you have that behavior and that mindset in the companies, it's maybe sometimes very hard to work with that in a working environment. And because you have also this too easy mindset and people tend to take things very easily. Of course, you have a lot of pros on that and you really have this in the whole society. But sometimes it can be too much, and sometimes you really expect someone to do something properly, and then you will face that person just take it like easily, will do the job, but either he won't finish it totally, or there will always be some missing parts. And sometimes in some specific environment, it can be tiring for foreigners. Now, the 5 things that people tend not to like here also in Vietnam, foreigner, it's about the crowd and the traffic. Here, when you go and when you live in big cities like Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, it's very crowded, and when you take your motorbike to go out, sometimes you can really feel that crowd. I'm lucky because I live in District 4, so I'm very close to District 1. Just here, a couple of minutes, I have the financial district. So every time I need to meet a customer, I need to meet someone, I always invite that person to go to a coffee, so we can easily, catch up in the coffee, have a business talk. Even when sometimes I meet my employee, I just ask them to catch up for a coffee. It's really the vibe that you have here. So this is the pros of being in this environment. But sometimes when you are really catch during those when you really catch those traffic jam and those crowd, it can be, again, very overwhelming. And then when you, at the same time, you have, for instance, the raining season, then it can be a big mess. So it's kind of understanding that foreigners don't like it, and it comes also with the pollution, with the fact that when you drive motorbike like this, you have to have a mask. So sometimes you are sweating a lot, sometimes it's very hot, or in the opposite, you catch the big rain. Now, I was mentioning a few minutes ago about the changement. Because in Vietnam, you live in an emerging country, obviously things will change very fast. So I was mentioning also about the fact that there were a visa crackdown. You can tomorrow have a land empty next to your apartment, and they will decide to make a condominium. Just here in front of, they are extending the road. So during the day, during some time late, during the night, you will also have people who are constructing stuff. So this changement attitude and the fact that here there is innovation, there is new things every time. It can be construction, it can be a new law, it can be new regulation. Even with this COVID now, things are changing very fast. Now the seventh thing that is very hard to deal in Vietnam, it's about the money, the banking and the finance aspect. Here, because we are in an emerging country and because we are in a socialist country, sometimes things are getting slowly on that. For instance, we see the fintech overseas, we see companies like TransferWise, Revolut. When you are a foreigner, you can access to those companies, right? But when you are here and when you are settling here, you also need obviously to have some local bank accounts, for instance, or just if you are a business owner, you need to have a corporate bank account. Here we don't have the same rule and the restrictions are way different. And sometimes they will ask a lot of paperwork for any reason. So let's say if you are receiving a salary, the bank will know how much salary your company is giving you. Sometimes if a friend wants to send you money, he cannot directly send you money because you are a foreigner. So the bank transfer will be cancelled. He has to use sometimes some tricks to put, individual, personal, those kind of tricks to be able to get your money that maybe is just a refund from a friend, right? So that money related component may be something that is also very hard for foreigners, and maybe foreigners and expatriates mostly are complaining about. Again, because of this very strict regulation in terms of paperwork, just when you want to send money overseas, it's a pain in the ass. So recently we saw many foreigners leaving the country, and then we saw also many foreigners, and some of my friends asked me, how can I send money overseas? And it's not that easy, right? If you have all the paperwork with the bank, you can go to the bank, you can show all your paperwork, and the banker will allow you to send money overseas, just an international transfer. Of course, you may lose some money into the currency exchange, some international transfer fee, but there is way. But the thing is that when sometimes you are not really fitting the box, I said before, when you are not entering in the criteria of you are here with a proper work permit, you are here with a business, or you are here married with a local, even for some of those people, it may be hard to really work on a day-to-day basis with the banking and the finance institutions. Another point is that as a foreigner, it's very also hard to get a loan. So if you plan to commit in Vietnam, if you plan to live here a long period of time, you may be interested into investing, but as a foreigner, you will be limited into that as well. You cannot access to the same banking solutions that local are having. So this is also another point that many foreigners are struggling about. And you always have pros and cons in different countries, right? But obviously, in Vietnam, this is something that is really present just because of the fact that the country just emerged and is just growing, attracting a lot of foreign direct investments. Things may change and things may be improved in the future, but right now we are still in a time that is really complicated to work with financial institutions, with banks, and to be really able to be in control of your, for instance, your investment strategy, your finance strategy, and all the things related to money in Vietnam. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you a quick illustration about 7 points that are struggling for foreigners. Some foreigners may have different behaviors, different expectations on the country. Maybe you face also different challenges while you were living in Vietnam, either as a tourist or either you stay here a couple of years, but you still struggle with some difficulties. Feel free to share below in the comments and give me your thoughts about what were your struggle, what were potentially your solution, and how did you cope with all those different regulations that we have in emerging countries. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And I'ma get it right, get on sight like